Welcome to another episode of Nigerian Kitchen, the tiny Nigerian Kitchen. Today I am going to be making Nigerian meat pie. That's right, so today I'm continuing with the small chops, or you might call it Wanu, or you might call it snacks series, and we're continuing that with the Nigerian meat pie. The Nigerian meat pie is very similar to a Cornish pasty or even a Jamaican patty in some senses. It's basically pastry filled with meat and vegetables. So because this is the Nigerian kitchen, I just want to add a little je ne sais quoi, as the French might say. I've actually got some of the suya seasoning from the last episode that I made, the suya barbecue, that I'm actually going to add in. So this is suya Nigerian pie, meat pie. Okay, so I've got my flour here. I'll be adding in a little bit of the baking powder together with butter to make the pastry. And then I've got my meat, my onion, carrot, potatoes, a little bit of stock and some corn flour to help thicken it. And I say secret ingredient. I know this is not Nigerian, but I love adding Marmite in to dishes when I really want to just get some depth in the flavor. So I will be adding that in as well. Okay, so now I've seen a few recipes online for the Nigerian meat pie that say you shouldn't use butter because then your pastry will come out too crumbly. And so I was looking into that and wondering, why would butter make it crumbly but margarine wouldn't? And I've got a theory that it's actually to do with the water. So fat coats normally the flour and stops it coming together, and there's gluten inside flour that once wet and you work it will mesh together and helps to kind of provide that doughiness or the chewiness of the pastry. So if we stop that happening, then it will keep our pastry crumbly. So essentially coating all the flour with fat is what stops the gluten network really getting strong. But margarine is also oil, so I think it's to do with the fact that actually margarine, if you look on the packaging, and the margarine I'm using says in every 100 grams is about 63 grams of fat, which is about 63%, whereas the butter is about 80 to 83. So much of the rest of that 100 grams that's not fat is basically water. So the margarine has much more water, which I think is what helps to keep the pastry less crumbly than if you use pure butter. So I'm actually going to do a test today. I'm going to try and make 3 different pastries. One will be using margarine, one will be using pure butter, and one will be using butter with some extra water added in to see if that stops it being too crumbly. So that if you really want to use butter, you just make sure you add some extra water into your pastry. Let's get started and give this a go. I've just noticed this, but it looks like I've got a third nipple with this. It's the mic. Okay, so let's start with the pastry. My plan is to make 3 different versions. I've put an M for margarine, B for butter, and E for water. So I'm going to be using, for each one, we're going to have 200 grams of flour, then 90 grams of fat, so the margarine, or 90 grams of butter, and then about 10% of water to the weight of the flour. So about 20 mils of water in each one, except for the one that's going to be extra water, and I'm going to make that 60 mils to see what difference that makes to the pastry itself. Let's measure out our first. Okay, this is the margarine, butter, butter. Now I need to add about half a teaspoon of baking powder to each one, and a pinch of salt. So the only thing left to going is the water, and that's going to be different for each one. So we've got 20 mil, and 40 mil. So I'm going to start with the first one. I'll add the water, I'll mix this, then I'll add the water, mix this, add the water, and mix that one. And we're done. Now to mix. Okay, first one done. I've got my dough ball. I'm actually going to leave it now to rest a little bit, and that should allow the little bit of water that we've added in to actually work in with the flour and the gluten networks to develop, so that this becomes a little bit more elastic, because at the moment it's kind of quite crumbly. So we'll leave that and go on with the second. And the second one done. Let's move on to the third. So this is the third one. It's super interesting because you can already see the difference even before we've cooked it or done anything with the dough. It's a lot more, I'd say, elastic just with the water, and it came together really easily compared to the other two. So I'm gonna rest these for 15 minutes or so while I get the meat filling together. Okay, so I've got 2 potatoes, 1 large carrot, 1 onion. I'm gonna chop that up, fry it, and then adding about 350 grams thereabouts of the minced beef. Okay, let's peel, then chop up, and then get frying. Done. Now the onions. I think I'm gonna cry again. Woo! There it goes, there it goes. Woo! Okay, so I'm going to sweat off the potatoes and the carrots. I kind of made carrot sticks rather than little chunks, which is what I wanted. Oh well. Okay, as usual, I'm going to add in a little bit of salt to help sweat and draw out the liquid from the carrots and potatoes. Okay, so I had the heat actually set on way too high at the beginning, so the bottom of the pan is quite brown, but actually the mix itself, as you can see, it's not burnt, so that's good. Now I've been frying it on a low heat for about 10 minutes. I think that's ready now, so I'm going to take that out and then fry my onions and my beef. So basically I just wanted to make sure that was already edible at this stage and soft enough, still with the crunch, but soft enough that I didn't have to rely on it finishing cooking all the way through once it's inside the pastry. So that's pretty good. So add some more oil. We're going to start at much lower heat this time so I don't burn the onions. Okay, time to add in the minced beef. Okay, now I'm going to add in a teaspoon of Marmite and some of the suya pepper mix. I'm going to add back in some of my potato and carrot mix. Final thing now is to add a little bit of corn flour to the rest of my homemade chicken stock, which I'm going to add in so that it gets this lovely thick sauce or juice all around meat, carrots and potato mix. And that is what the middle of the stuffing of pastry is going to be for our Nigerian meat pie. Woo! Getting hot in here. Woo, woo, woo. Okay. Suya pepper actually works. Now Nigerians will use whatever spices and flavorings they like, curry powder, thyme, turmeric, but this is already quite flavorful, so I'm going to stick to adding a little bit more of that, and this will be the base flavor for my meat pie. Okay, so I've got my 3 doughs, I've got my meat mix to go in the middle. I'm actually going to just knead each one of these a little bit more before I roll them out to make the shell pastry that's going to hold the meat filling. So first for the margarine. Okay, so I think that each one of these dough balls should be able to make me at least 2 large pies. So really, because these are just testers and this is an experiment, I'm actually going to go for 1 pie of each type and we'll see how that comes out. So I'm going to roll this a little bit flatter. And I'm going to use this bowl as my template. Woo, look at that. Actually, I can definitely get 3 out of each one of these, at least. Time for the last one. Great. So yeah, each of these dough balls should be able to make about 3 pies the size I'm making, and they're little ones, but this is really just to test the theory about what affects the crumbliness of the pastry shell. Okay, time to fill. Okay, so I've got my oven tin already oiled so that my meat pies don't stick to the bottom. I'm going to fill my first one, which is the margarine, right in the center. Oh, beautiful. This is the butter one. It's already so much harder to handle, so I think I'm going to fill it with less. You can see how crumbly that is. It's just opening up. This one is a bit of a mess. It's almost like mashed potato. We still have a pie. We're still going to put it in the oven. We're going to finish this off. The last one then is butter with a bit more water. I am totally overfilling all of these pies. Woo! Okay, so I'm going to brush with some egg all over. This is going to make sure when it comes out, it looks good enough to photograph for Instagram. Can't be having no pasty, pale looking meat pies, right? Woo! Okay, handle with care. First one. Yes, yes, yes! Woo! There we go. Let's get these in the oven. I've already preheated it to 170 degrees. I'm gonna pop it in now for about 20 minutes and we're ready to test the texture and the taste. Okay, and we are done. And if we couldn't tell before, it's pretty obvious now exactly what the situation is. So this was the one that was margarine and a little bit of water. This one was the one with butter and a little bit of water. And this one was butter with about double the amount. So these were 20 mil, this was about 45 mil of water. And it's amazing the difference. So looking at the margarine and butter having the same amount of water, and yet just the pastries are so different. This is falling apart. If I try and lift it off the tray, it's just totally crumbly. You can't really even hold it. Look at that, it just falls apart. So I guess there was some truth to those people online who were saying, don't use butter, don't use 100% butter because your pastry will just fall apart. But actually, if I look at the one that's still 100% butter, but just adding a bit more water compared to the one that's margarine, this one still holds actually a lot better. So I think my intuition was also correct in saying that I think what is more important is actually the amount of water that you're adding in. We still want something of a crumbly texture to the Nigerian meat pie. We don't want it chewy, so we don't want to put in tons of water, but we definitely need to add in enough to get a good texture that holds. So I guess that was what my advice would be. If you want your meat pie to be able to look good on Instagram, then make sure you add enough water in for the pastry to hold well, for the gluten networks to form. And if you want it to taste good, well, it depends if you prefer a buttery taste or a margarine taste. So I am going to dig in and see out of the two which I prefer. Nigerian meat pie. That is definitely Nigerian meat pie. So interesting actually, because the suya pepper is only a slight hint of it that comes through. It's not overwhelming flavor, but it's quite nice. Okay. So I actually prefer the one that's 100% butter. I can't say there's a massive difference in the taste, but I actually prefer the texture. So it holds, but as you bite, it kind of, you can feel that it's crumbly at the same time and it comes apart really easily. It's very light, which again, I guess the addition of the baking soda helps to really lighten it up. It's really nice. One more bite. Okay guys, thank you again. I shouldn't talk with my mouth full. My mother did bring me up well. I can't help it when the food is this good. So thanks again for watching. Don't forget to smash, as people say nowadays, that like button, press subscribe, press the bell notification. Thank you for joining.